All right, SML, welcome back to 2 Minute Drill Season 53 edition. I got D-Muse here, and we're going to break down all 32 teams. You ready to go, D-Muse?
Yeah, let's go. Ready to get into this.
All right, we'll start. I'll start with my team in the NFC or AFC North. I've got the Browns sitting at the top, 4-2, and that's where we'll start our 2 minutes. So right now, Noel sitting at 4-2, just played you actually, really tough. Um, he picked up Mike Long, a hidden defensive tackle in the draft. I think that's probably a really good pick for him because that defensive line was going to be a problem, especially losing Clowney. So I think Long, especially at the defensive tackle position, is a big get for him. And then he drafts two hidden free safeties to replace John Johnson. Um, this team going to be tough to really do much with because he's got the cap issues. Um, Not really a lot he can do. He doesn't even have picks because of the Watson deal. But what he is getting done, I kind of like. I don't know if I like what he just did signing Deion Jones for the cycle. That's an older guy that's only going to get worse. But at the same time, he can let guys like Delpit go because of these two hidden free safeties he's got. I think Delpit's going to end up walking. Brown's just in a really tough spot cap wise. And right now, Noel's doing the best he can to kind of navigate it, and I think he's doing all right. I think the defensive tackle is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely just played me real tough. Like you said, the cat situation makes it tough. So finding those nice draft picks are big going forward, and he seemed to do that.
All right. What team do you want to go ahead and start with?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the AFC South, and I'll also go top to bottom. So top of the AFC South, we have Fig Newton in the Titans sitting at 6-1.
Wow.
And to run through sort of how he's gotten here, he signed Jimmy G to start at quarterback, kind of a bridge option, but did not turn the keys over to Malik Willis. I think we all are kind of onto the fact that Malik Willis just probably isn't a starting quarterback in the SML. Um, two nice draft picks on the O line. In the second round, he took a hidden guard that's 75 overall already. And in the third round, he took a hidden tackle who's 75 overall already. Those are already his two best offensive linemen. So big upgrade there, creating some bigger holes for Derrick Henry in that offense. He got instantly better on defense, trading draft. He traded the fifth overall pick for Tyrann Mathieu, which I don't love in a vacuum, but seems to be helping him win some games right now. He traded some capital to you for Avonte Maddox and Kyron Johnson, so more immediate help. A more minor trade, he traded Okonkwo, the tight end, to the Niners for a second, and Chris Paul, not the basketball player, just a below average offensive lineman here in the SML. But some nice moves, nice couple nice picks, nice smart poised decision to bring in Jimmy G to start and some help on defense, and has Fig sitting at 6-1.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to question the moves he's made. He's sitting at 6-1, and maybe he knew that or felt like this was a chance he could make a move, so he picked up some veteran guys. I'm with you. I'm not really a big fan of the Tyrann Mathieu trade. You got a guy that may not even be there when the pick gets made, but um, tough to argue with his success so far. We'll see if it continues though. But Fig is a guy that we've seen in the playoffs before, so we very well could. All right. Next, I'm going to go with the Steelers, sitting at 3-3, second place in the AFC North. Uh, Not much really this offseason for the Steelers because they traded away their entire offseason for Trevor Lawrence, and that maybe hasn't worked out too well. But at least they got one of his favorite players. They did have some success in the draft. He drafted some solid offensive line, which we've seen Colt as one of those guys that'll pay for offensive line, generally too much. And now drafting the solid offensive line players, maybe he doesn't have to spend that cap on old offensive linemen. But really quiet offseason for the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, to be expected after that blockbuster trade
Yeah.
last year. Um, yeah, not much to add.
All right. So your next team.
I'm Yep, I'm gonna go to the Jags. Double rice, no bean, sitting at 5-2. Um, Ryan Tannehill, another veteran, signed to play quarterback for this team. So it's a kind of a trend in this division between the Titans and the Jaguars. A couple nice draft picks early on. He got a hidden, not a hidden, but he got a 72 overall receiver in the first round. He's normal dev, which kind of stinks, but he is 21, Terrell McAllister. So time to develop him. He got a hidden left tackle In the second round, that's already his best offensive lineman. So another trend between the top of the AFC South. But this is a team built for the cycle. Not a lot was needed in the offseason, and not a lot was done. Looking at the roster, that defense looks great. Still young, still developing. Looks like it's going to be nasty. And he did make one minor trade. He traded Chiazon, the linebacker, for a third, and Tyson Anderson is just a fast, low overall safety. Kind of a minor trade, but not much to add. Just interesting trend with the veteran quarterbacks and the rookie linemen being the best on the team.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out for him. I'm not a fan of trading your superstar franchise quarterback, but obviously if he can find an answer there, then it'll have worked out for him. I'm going to stay in the AFC North, and I've got the Bengals 2-4 with Fins. Now, Fins had a little bit of a bigger offseason than some of these teams we've seen so far. He added Mike Gesicki, Corey Linsley, Clavon Chazen. He drafted Connor Queen, who is a hidden dev, strong safety. We just talked about how he got rid of Tyson Anderson, and safety was really a depth for the Bengals team. They had Bates and Daxton Hill there, and now he drafts another hidden strong safety in Queen, and I think Queen actually is slow enough he can play sub linebacker, so that's a big find for him. He did in that Lindsey trade lose 2 second-round picks to Prime, so hopefully for his sake he does a little better than this 2-4 start, and maybe those aren't top 5 picks or top 10 picks. But speaking of top 10 picks, he did pick up a first from KJ. He sent him his first from this past draft, and he's got KJ's first right now, which looks like he could have very well traded for the number 1 pick for what was basically a middle first round pick. So that was a big get for him, and that'll really determine how his offseason looks when we see who he gets with that first pick.
Yeah, definitely. Always a savvy move if you're not going to make the draft or not interested in what's out there to trade for a future pick.
No, especially when it ends up being KJ's, where you know it's going to be top 5.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to the Colts dump, sitting at 3-4. Again, quiet offseason, kind of similar to the Steelers here. He traded everything for Justin Fields last year to make that his direction going forward. But a couple just interesting notes here. He's trying to bolster the wide receiver room. He traded a second-round pick for Diami Brown, and he did use his third-round pick on a 96-speed wide receiver, Ortega. So he's trying to get more depth and more talent there to help out Justin Fields. And he did a pretty good job in the second round, too. He took a middle linebacker who's already 73 overall. He's only normal dev, but he's 22. Will be a solid piece for the rest of this cycle. So more of a quiet offseason here. The Colts are dumps more about developing Justin Fields and moving forward. He's got that roster in a pretty nice spot right now.
Yeah, so far so good. I think he did just lose to Bean, but other than that, he seems to be playing really well with Fields, and we'll see if he can continue that. The combination of Fields and Jonathan Taylor makes his offense at least really dangerous. We'll see what he can do with the defense, because that front is where he really may struggle after getting rid of Kwity Paye. But he's got, 2 superstar safeties now in Cross and Blackman.
Yeah.
So we'll just see who he devs next to get superstar and fills out that defense. All right, so I'm going to close out the AFC North with the Ravens at 2-5. Ravens had an interesting offseason. He added quite a bit of talent. Adds Gabe Davis, Will Fuller, Bradbury, also the Saints' second-round pick in this upcoming draft. And he drafted a hidden dev, 77 overall halfback in Norman. But he re-signed Hunt. He still has Dobbins on the roster. Definitely loaded at the running back position. And maybe that pick could have been used better elsewhere. I think that was a computer pick anyway, which obviously the computer does a great job of deciding what position you need. But he also drafted a hidden free safety that's like 75 overall. So that'll help his defense a little bit. He's actually really good at the safety position as well. So it's, again, more depth, but you've already got Kyle Hamilton there, Marcus Williams. Maybe some of these trade pieces with Dobbins, Hunt, and then Hamilton, or maybe he waits till the offseason and trades these rookies. But pretty pretty decent size offseason for him. I don't know how much of the draft he made, but I like what the Ravens did this offseason.
Yeah, usually a quiet front office there, but busy this offseason, and I like all those moves. A lot of talent brought into that roster, and anytime you can say that after the offseason, it's a win.
Yeah, and especially that division where it's really anybody's division. When
Yep,
you look at it right now, there's 2 games separating, or 2.5 games separate him from the Browns.
yep, fully agree.
All right, so your final team?
Yeah, going to Clinky and the Texans, and this is just a long list that I have here. A lot of draft picks. This is how you have to build this team. It's a complete rebuild. Uh, Gonna start from the ground floor here. He had 3 first-round picks. He drafted a D end who's 76 overall and a linebacker who's 74 overall with his first 2 picks, bolstering the defense. The linebacker's hidden depth, so that helps Jamar Byers. Then he went quarterback with pick 131, James Barwin, um, 69 overall, 23 normal dev. I looked at him. I don't know. I feel like Clinky's going to be back in the quarterback market. I know he's missing some games right now and taking some losses, but would not be surprised if he's still searching for a quarterback this upcoming offseason. And he did help him with a couple wide receivers in the second and third round. 71 overall, 68 overall. One of them has 96 speed. Unfortunately, both normal dev. Same with the D tackle he took in the second round, who's 70 overall and 21. So a lot of like solid talent here, but only one dev trait for him in these first 6 picks. I'm sure he was hoping for more. It's gonna be tough to develop all these normal guys, and I'm really curious how he decided who like gets focus training in the weekly training sessions because that can be difficult, especially if you have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds. So interested to see how he develops these guys moving forward, and unfortunate for him that he didn't get more depth traits. Just a lot of normal development, solid players.
Yeah, and especially with the shortened cycle because of the blip, I'd almost you almost have to move on from that quarterback. It sounds like he's not
Yeah,
very good. He'll be 24 and normal dev, maybe 70 overall by next season.
right.
It really doesn't hurt you anything to move on. Um, so tough draft for him, but we'll see what he does moving forward. Um, so for my next team, I'm going to move to the NFC side of the ball, and we're going to go with the NFC North. The Packers sitting at 5-1. Um, would have thought it would be a fairly quiet offseason for the Packers. Not a lot of cap space. Um, biggest biggest move, I guess, for the Packers was a non-move, and it was Aaron Rodgers coming back. That was
Mm-hmm.
that was the biggest thing for them. But he did add Amari Barno from the Panthers, so he's got a speed guy on the end now. He drafted a 66 overall, 22-year-old quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be the replacement for Rodgers. He is normal dev, so really no reason to go with him over whatever he can get in this next draft if he can maybe hit on something. But you got to think the Aaron Rodgers replacement has got to be something that he's kind of focusing on because you have no idea what's going to happen, kind of like the real Packers. But the rest of his draft, he actually was the opposite of Klink. How you said Klink missed on a lot of his picks, gets a lot of normal dev. The Packers got a hidden dev right tackle, hidden dev right end, cornerback, and strong safety. So he's reloading with some good talent in the draft, which may be needed because looking at his contracts right now, he's got A.J. Dillon, Rashawn Gary, Savage, and Amos all due for new contracts, and he just picked up Jedrick Wills, who you can add to that list that's going to be needing a new contract. And I think Noel said $18 million a year is what he wants. So if Rodgers comes back, it'll be interesting to see who out of that group gets re-signed because it can't be all of them.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see. He definitely wants Rodgers back, though. I mean, he's
Yeah,
unreal, and I mean, everyone knows Faz needed more devable players. So,
that's right.
yeah, hitting in the draft's big there. I'm going to the NFC South, and I'm going to start with the Buccaneers and QP sitting at 4-2. Um, Big news here: Tom Brady retired, so he did have to move on. He had a backup plan. He traded for Davis Mills last year, and he rolled him out this year. I just played him a couple of weeks ago. Davis Mills looked pretty good. He did miss a throw at the end of the game, but he was under pressure. A lot of guys would have missed that throw. But he made a couple blockbuster trades this offseason. He traded Devin White and Rashad White to Dan for superstar development James Cook, Russo on the defensive line, who's a stud, and a future second round pick. I think he got the better end of that deal, and I don't know that it's particularly close.
No, I don't think so at
I
all.
know Devin, yeah, I know Devin White's a really nice Madden piece, but QP is going to be just fine using in the middle of the field. Um, and then he also won this trade with Gutta. In my opinion, he traded a 5th round pick, safety Mike Edwards, who's a superstar, but he's only 80 overall and he's not young, and defensive end Carl Lawson. And he brought in Daniil Hunter, who's just the best player in this trade by far, and Cam Dantzler, who is a usable, serviceable corner. So, I mean, he added Russo and Hunter on the D line and a superstar running back, all while not giving up like that much. Like, he basically upgraded his team. Questionable moves on the other sides of those, but I'm not going to cover that part. Great trade for QP, though. And he hit the draft. He drafted a hidden safety with the 28th pick and a hidden left tackle with the 2nd round pick. Again, similar to Faz, just what QP needed. And I mean, he's going to develop those guys. And shout out to Contez Cephas, who I saw he brought in.
Yes,
I
he
think
did.
he was a big piece of that Lions team that he won the Super Bowl with. So just wanted to shout him out.
All right, so I'm gonna go with the Bears next, and the surprising Bears sitting at 5-1. He just beat KJ, 24-3. Adds Bradley Chubb. He gives up pick, I believe it was 1-9 for him, and so not bad. I think I will talk about who Matt got with 1-9, but 1-9 to get an edge rusher. I like that move for Biz. He's got tons of caps, so paying him wasn't a big deal. He did send his first this year for the Jags last year pick, so the 5-1 start actually makes that look like a better deal. And then he trades Velus Jones, Braxton Jones, and Khalil Herbert and gets Naheem Hines and the Bills' 1st-round pick. I think to me that's a steal.
Mm-hmm.
The Herbert and Braxton Jones kind of just whatever. Velus Jones is a speed guy, but compared to what we're getting in the drafts now, he's not even that fast. I mean, he's just another guy. You can find that speed in free agency right now. So to pick up a first for basically nothing, that's another huge deal for Biz. Unfortunately, then he drafted his quarterback of the future, and it's a normal dev, like 73 overall guy. He got a hidden right guard. He got a hidden corner in Shields that's really good. And then he got a 78 overall free safety, normal dev, but he's already almost 80. And then adds Clowney in free agency. So really, I think he actually had one of the better off seasons in the league, and it's kind of gone quietly unnoticed. But I like what he's doing there with the Bears.
Yeah, and it's showing results on the field.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to see that, and I agree. I think he had a great offseason.
All right, your next team.
Going to the Saints and QB, tough team. Had to send out a lot of veterans. Part of that was trading Tyrann Mathieu. Now, where it's not tough is when you get the 5th overall pick for him, which he was able to do. He traded Tyrann Mathieu a 2nd and a 4th for that 5th overall pick, who he turned into a quarterback, Marcus Johnson. Again, common theme, normal dev here, and he's already 23. He is 72 overall, which is okay. He has 96 throw power, but not a lot else. Going to be interested to see if he's able to dev him. He did get him some help in the 2nd round. He took Trevor Cole, a wide receiver, who's 72 overall with 97 speed. So some of that speed you mentioned that's available in the drafts. And he also added to his defense in the 2nd round. He took a linebacker who's 73 overall with 87 speed. Again, a lot of solid talent here, but all normal dev in a shortened cycle. It's going to be pretty tough to get them great, but they're going to be usable pieces going forward. He also had to ship out Cam Jordan, another veteran piece, to Monty. He got a solid outside linebacker, Bonito, and he got a 2nd-round pick. So pretty good value there. I think he got really good value for his veterans and had a decent draft, but it's going to be a bit of a rebuilding year a little bit for the Saints team in QB, sitting at 4-3. I think just the downgrade in talent itself is going to take a year to kind of show itself out.
Yeah, the good thing is it does sound like he does like his quarterback. We'll see if that continues, but I did hear him say something in chat. He was pretty happy with him. All right,
that's what you,
so next up, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, that's all.
Okay, so next up, I got NFC North, the Lions sitting at 2-4. Paulie can't really claim he's tanking this year because he doesn't have his first round pick. He swapped the upcoming first and 2 seconds last year for 110 last year, and he ends up drafting a normal quarterback. He gets a 96 speed wide receiver, a hidden defensive end, which should be superstar based off daddy leagues, and then he gets a hidden corner and a hidden free safety. So he's definitely improving that defense. Made the most of his picks. Unfortunately, sitting at 2-4, not having his own pick this year could hurt. But he also picked up Chris Barnes and Hayden Hurst in free agency, and I think that'll help him a little bit. Really, with the Hawkinson trade, took away a tight end, and he didn't really have one. So I think Hayden Hurst at like 87 speed will be a nice addition to this offense, which, again, he added a 96 speed wide receiver to go with DJ Chark, Jamison Williams. He's got a ton of speed on that offense, and he just added more to it in the offseason. So 2-4, kind of struggling, but we'll see if that turns around when he gets more used to this offense. Really, the quarterback, though, is what hurt him.
Yeah, 2-4 is probably not where he thought he was going to be trading that first round pick and bring in some solid talent. But we'll see how he turns it around. There's no incentive for him to lose games not having that pick. So we'll see.
All right.
I'm going to Carolina, where Meats is sitting at a very disappointing 1-5 after making some noise in the playoffs. And it's kind of a mystery, like, why he's here. If you look at his draft, he might have had the best draft in the SML. He got 5 hidden devs in this draft. His first pick, 18th overall, 74 overall, 21-year-old hidden dev safety. 25th overall, 74 overall, 22-year-old hidden dev defensive end. Second round picks, 2 74 overall hidden offensive linemen. And in the 4th round, he got a hidden running back who's 75 overall already. That's a big talent infusion for a team that was already young and really good, just a really good roster, especially for Madden. And brought in 5 studs. And he also, so sitting at 1-5 has to feel disappointing. He just traded this in season a 3rd round pick to me for Marco Wilson, who's like an okay corner, provides some depth there. No other real flashy moves, but I don't know. Meats has to feel pretty disappointed with the 1-5 start, and it's not because he didn't bring in talent. He nailed the draft. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, he did miss a couple games, so he gave out some forced wins, but yeah, that start is not what he had to be hoping for. And really curious what he's gonna. I saw he put C.J. Henderson on the trade block, but brings in Marco Wilson. I don't know. Maybe there's some cap issues going on there, and he wanted a longer contract, or I don't even know. That's a tough one to see him go 1-5 after he made a nice playoff run.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, I'm going to go with the Vikings to close out the NFC North, and Gatto with he's quickly becoming I think favorite for worst GM of the year.
I agree.
Really tough trades. Now, not even talking about pre-cycle or pre-blip with the Malik Willis trades. He traded his upcoming second for Brandon Cooks, who's an older receiver. You're talking about a team that's already got Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on it. So he trades what's going to probably be a top 10 pick in the second round for Brandon Cooks. He trades last year's first for Daniel Jones, then drafts a hidden quarterback in the 5th, and that's who he's playing. So he traded his first for his backup quarterback, and then trades Cam Dantzler and Danielle Hunter for Mike Edwards, Carl Lawson, and a 5th. Like you mentioned, Danielle Hunter, easily the best player in that deal. And Dantzler may be the second. You could argue that the cornerback position is more important than a safety or an aging Carl Lawson. And I think he got kind of fleeced there. Maybe trusted his brother wouldn't pull one over on him, but he did. Lawson right now, 2 tackles and half a sack through 3 games. The Vikings have played 6, but Lawson only registered a stat in 3 of them. Edwards, he's got a little more, 12 tackles, half a sack, 1 interception, and 1 deflection through 5 games. So not really getting much return. Meanwhile, Danielle Hunter having himself a fine year over in Tampa Bay. So we'll see what he does. He's really really quick to pull the trigger on getting rid of picks and then bringing in guys that maybe aren't the right fit.
Yeah, I don't know how you trade a first round pick for Daniel Jones and then bench him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm with you. I think he's been the worst GM so far this cycle. His trades, I don't think he's won one, in my opinion.
Yep. All right, that's 2 minutes on the Vikings. So who's your next team?
Yep, I have the Falcons, the ice cold Falcons. Mike sitting at 0-7. Not because of quarterback play. He traded a 5th-round pick for Derek Carr. He's playing pretty well if you look at the numbers. And he's playing him over a hidden dev rookie who he got in the 4th round. He's only 65 overall, so I don't fully blame him there. I don't know how much of a path to development there is there. But at some point, I expect to see that rookie come in and him to just see what he has because Derek Carr is not going to be the long-term answer. With a 2nd-round pick, he took a defensive tackle who was 72 overall, normal dev. But, I mean, he traded all of his picks basically to Prime for that big blockbuster trade last year. So I think Prime has his first-round pick this year too, sitting at 0-7, not where you want to be. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out as the season goes on.
Yeah,
Derek Carr meant that he had to move on from Ritter, who he traded for a 2nd and a 3rd this year. So we'll see if he can turn those into anything. I don't think he liked Ritter, so I don't blame him for getting off of him.
no, but I don't think he's going to get anybody better than Ritter the rest of the cycle. He doesn't have his pick this year, which is going to go to Prime, and that's going to be tough because he still needs a quarterback. And if he was sold on Ritter, it would have made more sense to make that move that he did with Prime, but I think he's going to regret that one. Not that KJ's doing really much with Ritter either, but he's still kind of looking for that quarterback and no first. And we'll see if he can pull off some wins, though. I looked at his schedule, and it doesn't look pretty. Maybe 4 wins. Okay, so I'll go to the AFC East, and we've got the Bears. Bears sitting – or not Bears. The Bills. Bills sitting at 6-0. We talked about it earlier. They moved their first for basically nothing to the Bears. So not really a fan of that trade. And then the other trade I'm not really a fan of. He gave, like you said, Russo, Cook, and a 2nd for Devin White and another running back. And really, it looks like Dan is just stockpiling Whites over there. He's got Devin White, Rashad White to go with Tre'Davious White. Maybe that's why he made the trade, because outside of that, I don't see a reason why you would give up another edge rusher. But he does come through, and I don't think he was expecting this because it was a good get. But he picked up Owe from the Ravens for Gabe Davis, which I didn't see that coming. So he does pick up an edge rusher, but I just really wasn't a fan of his trades outside of that one. Even with Owe coming in, I don't think that's a great trade. But he did draft a hidden dev running back that he seems to like. I just didn't really care for his offseason this year. I thought he kind of made some deals he didn't need to, and actually made his team worse.
Yeah, Dan's always aggressive. He wants someone. He'll do anything it takes to get him. He does have 2 freaks in Isaiah Simmons and Devin White on defense now, but I agree. Outside of the Gabe Davis trade, I didn't love either of the other 2. They're not moves I would have made.
Yep. All right, who's your next team?
Yeah, I'm going to the Chargers. Prime sitting at 5-2. You mentioned this a bit earlier for a brief second. He traded center Corey Linsley to the Bengals for 2 seconds. I think that's part of him trying to get cap compliant moving forward with the Herbert contract about to kick in. And he was able to draft a running back, Bud Stoudemire, in the 3rd round. He's hidden. He's already 23 and he's 74 overall. He's playing behind Eckler right now. We'll see if he goes there long term or if he kind of rides Eckler out. Interested to kind of see how that plays itself out. But he hit on his first round pick. He took a D tackle, Trent Rhodes. He's only normal dev, but it's a defensive tackle who's already 74 overall, and he's only 21. So time to develop there. I thought that was a good pick. Not a lot to do with this team. Lots of talent.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all he did. That big trade with Mike last year and a couple other moves that he had made. But sitting pretty. I think he said he's under the cap enough where he can actually hang on to Keenan Allen, which it's been a while since the Chargers had a luxury of doing that. He's usually on the move pretty quick. So I don't know. Probably going to win a lot of games, and hard to fault any of the moves that he made.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see just kind of same with the Packers, how he kind of navigates that cap, because that's going to be probably the biggest hurdle for that team is the cap. It's not really any of the other teams in the league, just what they can do with their own team.
Yep.
All right, so that's going to bring us to the Dolphins, and Matt, he's at 6-1. This AFC East really looking pretty good. Every team sitting at 500 or better. But Dolphins, he moves Chubb for a first, and he gets a outside linebacker who's got 3 tackles in 3 games. That's it. Not really a great trade in my opinion, but he's another one. He's got Jalen Waddle coming up on a contract, has to re-sign Tua. So I don't think he wanted to keep that Chubb contract. To me, it's tougher to get edge guys and pass rushers than it is anything else maybe in the game. Although maybe quarterbacks too, because we've seen some bad quarterback classes.
Mm-hmm.
So we see these trades, and the guys that win the trade are generally the guy that gets the edge rusher. And I think Biz won this one, giving up, pick 9 for Bradley Chubb. We'll see what he does for Biz, but 5-1 speaks for itself. He kind of missed on halfbacks in the second and third round. Both guys under 70. Neither really stands out as being great. And then he got a tight end that's kind of just in the second round. He's fast, but he's, again, under 70. His 2 best picks were he had hidden guys at center and right tackle, so that'll help his offensive line. And again, I think offensive line does matter, but I don't know if you need to pay for it.
Yep.
And that's kind of what you see. He did, the Steelers did. A couple other guys have drafted some good offensive linemen, and I think that's the biggest hit in the offseason is getting your offensive line cheap.
Yep, I agree with everything you just said. It would have been nice for him to hit on one of the running backs, but Mostert's still fast.
Yep.
So he's fine. I'm going to Monty in the Broncos, sitting at 4-3. And he made really one move that was all in coming off his Super Bowl appearance. He traded for Cam Jordan. I mentioned earlier, gave up Bonito and a second-round pick. Usually a pretty good trade. Cam Jordan's normally always available in the SML. Historically, he's effective on the defensive side of the ball. 4-3 is probably a slower start than Monty would have wanted, but plenty of time to turn that around. And I don't know. He traded for Sam Howell. He traded a second and third round pick for Sam Howell, and I think he's still playing Russell Wilson. So I don't know if that was a long play. Maybe he's trying to demo him while still playing the superstar. Russ, kind of hoping maybe he retires and gets off his contract, but I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. He made a couple decent picks. He got a hidden linebacker. He got 2 hidden linebackers, one in the second, one in the third. The one he got in the second's better. He's 21, 73 overall, and he's fast enough to play. The other one I think is kind of slower, but still nice to get a hidden guy in the third round. And Patrick Peterson is on his roster. I don't know if that was something that happened last year or if that was an offseason free agent signing, but I noticed that. So that's some immediate help in the secondary as Monty tries to get back to the Super Bowl. We'll see how his season turns around.
Yep, especially since in the playoffs he's going to be facing guys like Dan and Prime, both who have top-end quarterbacks with some receivers, and so any secondary help is good, especially when you pair it with that edge threat.
Yep.
All right, so next up in the AFC East is going to be the Patriots and RD, also at 5-1. Waiting for him. He's going to play Dan here sometime this evening. Who knows when that's going to be. But he had an all right offseason as well. 2 second-round picks and a 64 overall free safety that he uses in exchange for Mac Jones, who Coop already has said he's pretty much done with. So that was a good trade for RD. Then he drafted a hidden halfback, 2 hidden defensive tackles, and a hidden middle linebacker, who I think was the fastest one in the draft. And then he brings in free agency Odell Beckham and Rashad Evans. So he's kind of building that Patriots team to where they have a decent amount of talent, and it's showing in the record where he's sitting at 5-1 right now. Unfortunately, he's in probably the toughest division, and 5-1 gets you third place. So really good offseason for RD, and really a lot to be happy about there with that draft. 4 hidden guys, and the Patriots team just going to keep getting better.
And it's showing. watching his streams, watching his games. His team just looks a lot better. He looks a lot more comfortable. Definitely expect a return to the playoffs for him, and we'll see if he can make some noise.
Yeah. All right. So next up for you.
Yeah, this one will be pretty quick. I only have one note here for the Chiefs. Woods sitting at 3-3, third place in the AFC West. And all I have written down here is that he acquired Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, that's
added some receiver depth.
that's a quiet off
He's a
season.
big target. It's like 82 overall. Tall. Can help out, but I didn't really notice any rookies that I wanted to point out or any other big moves. I know the Chiefs don't have the best cap situation either. Mahomes' contract's gigantic. Chris Jones, number of guys on that team. So that's all I have on Woods, sitting at 500. And yeah, we'll see. I don't see him passing Prime or Monty.
No, probably not. All right. Then we'll go to the Jets. Jets probably wouldn't have had as much to talk about until today. He just traded earlier today Zach Wilson, and he gets 2 seconds from the Commanders. And I think that's probably more than he thought he was going to get for Zach Wilson, especially after trashing him after the last game, talking about how bad he was. To turn around and get 2 seconds is pretty good. And then not only that, but that just kind of goes to show how bad that Daniel Jones trade was. Gutta gives up a first for him when Zach Wilson goes for 2 seconds. And as bad as maybe he is, I would say they're probably close to the same level play-wise, but Zach Wilson already star dev and higher throw power. Daniel Jones may be a little faster, but definitely could have gotten probably Jones a little cheaper. Or maybe it's on DW. He should have gotten rid of Wilson sooner, and he could have got a higher return. But he did draft what maybe is his quarterback of the future. It's another kind of just whatever guy. But he does have 96 throw power. He's 22 years old. And his accuracy numbers aren't too bad. They're all above 70, like mid to low to mid 70s. So we'll see if that's where he's going to go. But he's going to have his first round pick this year, and he can use that to get a quarterback if that guy doesn't work out. He drafted a hidden left tackle. He still has $43.25 million in cap space. Would have liked to see him use some of that in free agency. Didn't really bring anybody in. And then what really hurts is he drafted a normal outside linebacker. I think he's 74 overall, younger, at the second pick in the draft. And that really was tough to whiff on that one. Probably should have traded out of that spot because you could have got pretty much the same thing elsewhere.
Definitely tough to miss in the second pick like that.
Yeah.
But Zach Wilson, owners not liking Zach Wilson seems to be a common theme. So
yeah,
we'll see if people start to figure that out. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how all these quarterbacks develop. I feel like a lot of people are in tough spots at that position.
Yeah, could be. And that's 2 minutes on the Jets. So your last team?
Yep, Raiders, terrible two-step, 1-6. There's some hope here. He moved on from Derek Carr. He got a fifth-round pick for him. Whatever. But he took Ray Whitfield, new quarterback with the 4th overall pick. I think he was probably the best quarterback taken.
Yeah.
Or at least up there. Just because he has hidden development and he's already 73 overall, 22, so he's not the dreaded 23-year-old. Definitely developable if he's able to figure it out with him. And my only other note here, he kind of hit on a 6th-round pick later in the draft. He got a hidden safety. He's only 65 overall, but looks like he can play sub-linebacker, and he's only 21 years old. So that's good value that late in the draft. We'll see if he can develop this team. I don't see him coming out of the basement in this division anytime soon, but if he can play with that quarterback and figure it out, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he could move into that 3rd spot, especially if Woods is just kind of standing pat, but he's got, a pretty decent team advantage. All right, so for the last one, obviously, I'm going to move to the NFC East, and right now it's the Commanders 4-2. Commanders snuck one by the trade committee. They got 4 trades in. Just the way Neon tracks it, they were able to sneak one in. So he trades 2 seconds for Zach Wilson, traded a second for Tyron Smith, added a second by trading Diami Brown to the Colts, and then traded Sam Howell to the Broncos for a 2 and a 3. Ends up signing Kirk Cousins. I thought he did all right with Kirk Cousins, but he decides that I think I think he looked at the quarterback market and looked at the draft and how the last draft went and saw that pretty much a lot of those teams may draft another quarterback again if they're in position, and realized he needs to get somebody maybe more long term than Cousins, and he went with Zach Wilson. Um, we'll see how that works out for him if he likes it, but I think it was actually a smart move on his part, other than not realizing he had just made 4 trades. Um, but getting a quarterback before everybody else realizes they still need one. Um, Draft wasn't great. He got a normal dev wide receiver. I think he's 74 overall, 94 speed. He's pretty good. He gets a hidden left guard, so hits on an offensive lineman, and then adds a 385-pound defensive tackle to that line. I just don't know where that guy's going to play with Sweat, Young, Payne, and Allen all still there, but I guess on maybe goal line he can bring in a 385-pound defensive tackle. But not a bad offseason.
No, and I'm with you. Get ahead of the quarterback market. I think struggling to find a quarterback is going to be a common theme.
Yep.
So we'll see if he can play with Wilson.
All right, your last division?
Yep, it's my division, NFC West. Starting with myself, I'm sitting at 5-2 here after a tough win over the Browns today. Didn't really do anything in free agency. I signed Josh Palmer, who prime released midseason. Added some wide receiver depth. I've been kind of tortured by injuries so far. I traded Marco Wilson to Meats for a third. And I traded Zaven Collins to you for Milton Williams in a third. Kind of in a situation where Kyler's contract's kicking in. So guys that I'm not completely sold on extending, trying to just get some cheap draft capital, and defensive tackle was my weak spot by far. So I like Milton Williams as a guy there who can probably hang around for the rest of this cycle. In the offseason, I traded a future second and a fourth for Brandon Scherf and a future fifth. So I didn't really give up much here to bring in some offensive line help, which we needed. I also went offensive line first round, got a 74 overall hidden left tackle. And I was able to hit on my 2 second round picks too. Got 2 75 overall guys at running back and corner. Both are normal devs, but 21 and 22 years old. So looking forward to seeing how they develop. But yeah, figuring out the cap for me going forward is going to be a little bit of a struggle, or a little bit of a bypass here going into this offseason. But I think we have a plan, and we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's the tough thing and a common theme we see with all the teams that have quarterbacks that are going to be on big deals or have big deals upcoming. The cap becomes a real issue, and like what you're doing, you got to trade sometimes for picks or guys that are on longer deals, especially rookie contracts like a Milton Williams, to kind of help you get a little bit of breathing room. All right, and since you did your team, I'll do my team. The Eagles sitting at 4-3 after a forced win against NYT. Used up all 3 of my trades this year. Bradbury picked 2, 4, and a future second for 111, which had turned into an X Factor corner. So that worked out. Traded Devontae Maddox, Kyron Johnson, and a future third to Fig for, like you said, San Francisco's second in this upcoming draft. And then I swap with Fig, 3rd round picks next draft. And then the Collins deal. Draft wasn't too bad. I picked up a 6'5", 91 speed wide receiver who's pretty good. So far, I think he's got like 4 or 5 touchdowns. He's having that height is nice because I only had smaller receivers. Got a normal dev, 74 overall defensive tackle, and then had a hidden defensive end, 2 hidden corners, one being the X Factor, and then a hidden free safety, which I really needed. This draft was perfect for me because of the secondary being a strength, and that was kind of what I was hoping to rebuild after a weak free safety spot and then some older corners. I was able to move some cap out, and I think we're going to be okay cap space wise, but we'll see going forward how that works out. Jalen Hurts probably going to be on a tag deal, and Miles Sanders probably going to walk.
Yeah, it's a really nice draft. I know you have that Miles Sanders decision looming, but you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, next up will be a halfback somewhere down the road. All right, your next team?
Yep, going to the 49ers and NYT. He's sitting at 2-4. The biggest note I have for him is that Trent Williams retired, which offensive lineman, whatever, but that's a 99 overall offensive lineman.
Yeah.
I feel like that does matter for sure. So that's a big loss. he didn't really do too much in the offseason. In the third round he found a hidden safety. There's 69 overall. Um, so we'll see if he can dev him. He's only 22, and again he acquired that tight end from the Titans. So Conquo, some speed at that position behind Kittle. Traded a future second and Chris Paul, who is just a backup lineman. So I don't know. I like that move. Get something substantial, but kind of quiet. Again, good roster. You'll see that theme in the first offseason. It's kind of more quiet. Not a lot of talent needs to be brought in.
Yep.
I'm sure he's hoping for better than a 2-4 record, but we'll see.
Yep. All right. So my next two teams are going to be both pretty short because they didn't really do a ton. The Cowboys sitting at 3-4, traded Tyron Smith for that second inside the division, which I always think is a little odd. But not a bad draft, other than the first pick was or a first round pick was. I don't even want to say that. I don't know if he was a first round pick. But he gets a halfback, 75 overall, normal depth. It's just typical Grams to get another offensive skill player when he may not necessarily need him. But he hit on the rest of the draft. Hidden right tackle, hidden defensive tackle, hidden middle linebacker, hidden free safety. So the defense adds quite a few young pieces, and he replaces a tackle on the line with a hidden guy. Would have liked to see maybe not a running back go, but he did move on from Zeke, so maybe he just likes to have two usable running backs. But other than that, quiet offseason for the Cowboys.
Yeah, not much to add. Grams is usually pretty quiet in the offseason,
Yep.
and drafting running back is almost a lock at this point.
Yeah.
I'm going to Coop, who's sitting at 2-5. He was pretty busy. Start with the draft. He took a D end, 8th overall, and he hit. He's already 77 overall. He's 21. He's hidden dev Tayshawn Waller. I have to keep that name in the back of my mind for when I play him twice a year. And he also got a pretty solid safety in the third round, 72 overall already. He brought in Larry Tunsil to help the offensive line. Traded pick 131. Tunsil's a stud. I feel like anytime you can get someone 90 overall or higher like that for a late first, you should do it. Kind of a crapshoot at that point in the draft. Something interesting that I noted, he acquired Damian Harris. So his backfield now consists of Zeke, Kenneth Walker, and Damian Harris. Interesting strategy. I thought he was going to move on from Kenneth Walker after he traded a first-round pick for Zeke. That hasn't come yet. So curious what the strategy is there. And then, of course, Mac Jones finally got a starting job again. I know Coop's not having a great time, but be careful what you wish for, because I don't know what other options or what the future at that position looks like, just given. Take this offseason, for example, and kind of look at what teams have done at quarterback. I don't know the answers always in the draft, but we'll see how we address that in the offseason. He gave up 2 seconds, which to take a shot at a quarterback is usually worth it, even if it doesn't work out. So,
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what he does with the halfbacks. I have inquired about both, so we'll see what happens. All right, and my last team is going to be Tiny and the Giants, who actually play right after Advance, which looks like it may be not long after this releases. Tiny 1-5, possibly the best trade of the offseason, getting a first for Daniel Jones. He signs Baker Mayfield to a 1-year deal, so he's still got to figure out the quarterback position after this season. If he doesn't like Mayfield, he's going to have to still find somebody. I would probably extend Mayfield. You can probably do it cheap because there's, as we've seen, Daniel Jones gets a first, 2 seconds for Zach Wilson. There's not a lot out there that you're going to be able to get. Maybe you can get Mac Jones if you're okay with the low throw power. And then he drafts a normal dev 74 overall corner, which is decent for his team, but his hit of the draft, which I think ended up being the best player in the draft, at least overall wise, he gets a hidden 81 overall halfback, which is absolutely perfect for a team that already has Saquon Barkley, who's untradeable. So I'm assuming we'll see that guy on the block after the season, but quiet off season for the Giants, other than drafting Saquon Barkley's replacement that'll never be.
Yeah, it's tough. He had Gannon pre-blip, so him and these 80-plus overall skill position guys.
Yeah, he does get the good players in the draft, and I think the computer picked both of them, so maybe that's something to keep an eye on or work on. All right, so the last team, who do you got?
Yep, KJ is going to be our last team we're covering today. He's sitting at 1-6. He's trying to figure out the quarterback situation again. He traded for Ritter, gave up a future second, a future third, and a sixth for Ritter and a future fourth. I think he's struggling so far, but smart to get ahead of the Stafford thing. He's going nowhere but down. Hopefully, you can get off that contract sooner rather than later. And why not take a shot at Ritter? He had one good pick that I wanted to point out in this draft. Third round, he got a 74 overall, 21-year-old hidden guard. So help the old line. Like you said, third round pick. It's going to be pretty cheap. That's a pretty good old lineman. He'll last the whole cycle. So good pick there. Like a lot of these teams, I mean, it comes down to quarterback. The Rams also salary cap problems. A lot of common themes on today's show, but yeah, that's all I have for KJ.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this season's episode of 2 Minute Drill. Let's see where everybody goes from here and what goes on in the next draft. But until next time, this has been 2 Minute Drill with me and D-Muse.